Here we go, everyone. It's the Pizza Buffet live for Week 4, presented by FanDuel. I'm Rob Pizzola, pro sports bettor, CEO here at The Hammer. Take a minute for people to file in. For those already in the chat, lots of familiar faces. Free 88. Jason looks like he's in the chat this morning. Lord McD, Steven Robinson. Let me know what you guys are on today. Your top plays for today while I lay out how this works for everyone else. Just quick note, obviously we're at halftime here. Vikings, Steelers. I'll probably have my eyes on that. I do get distracted really easily. Try to bear with me over the course of the show. But a reminder, quick reality check. The first 3 weeks have been pretty good for me overall. That does not mean I'm suddenly like a side and total sniper on Sunday mornings. I've been doing some version of this show for 6 or 7 years now. If you blindly tailed every side and total I gave out on air over that span, you'd be down overall. Limits are up on Sundays. Edges get thin. I don't believe in hot streaks or cold streaks or, seeing the board better. The start to this season wasn't magic. It was just positive variance. So most of my positions are already in. If you want to get ahead next week, Forward Progress has early week content that can help you time the market a bit better. So don't unload on a bunch of games this morning. The format is the same. I will hit every game. You'll see a graphic with my numbers for each matchup. I'll tell you what I like, what I don't. I'm on market for a lot of these games today, but there's a few things I still like here and there. I'll also sprinkle in a bunch of props when they're still widely available. Always shop for the best number. Check FanDuel, our presenting sponsor. They often have the best price. And towards the end, I'll throw out some long shot anytime touchdown scores as well. Just some small sprinkles that you can potentially back and hopefully make some money off. This show is better with you in it. I try not to check my phone over the course of the stream. If something breaks, drop it in the chat. There's a lot of injury information we're waiting on today. I will try to work your comments in as well over the course of the show. And if you can, before we get going, like the stream, subscribe, share with a friend, all that stuff really helps. So please smash that like button really quickly. And if you can, share this out. Thank you for being here for Week 4. Let's get into it. And we'll start with the Chargers and the Giants. Talked about this game a bunch on the channel this week, and I don't really have a strong opinion here. We saw when the announcement from Russ to Jackson Dart was made, a little small tick towards the Chargers, and we've kind of settled in the market right now at 6s or 6.5s. I will say, if you do like the Giants today, FanDuel does have the best number in market at 6.5, minus 115 right now. Total's 43.5. Not a great spot for a Jackson Dart debut here. Chargers drop back success rate on defense, tops in the league, 34%. There's almost a 6% gap to the second best team in the league. So ideally, don't want to be doing that. Probably also don't want to be tweeting or posting to Instagram about Justin Herbert's girlfriend either. Not a great idea, in my opinion, in the early going here. But this is going to be a tough matchup. And I don't know what Jackson Dart is going to be, which is why I'm very hesitant to fire on this type of game. If the pass protection holds up, which it's possible it can because the Chargers don't have much in terms of edge rushers anymore, as long as Andrew Thomas finishes this week, he didn't really finish last week, then there's a chance that they can succeed. But I don't really know. Other side of things, the Giants' cornerback depth has not been great. We know the Chargers are 67% early down pass rate. That's going to amplify their edge against this Giants secondary. They can stress all levels, right? McConkey, Johnston, Allen, short, intermediate, deep. That all works. This would be the one game if the Giants were going to get something from their front seven, which they haven't really gotten so far this year. Everyone liked the Giants defense going into the year because they might be able to get after the quarterback. Well, we already know Rashawn Slater's on IR. Mekhi Becton, he hasn't been good this year, but he's out for the Chargers. Their center, Bradley Bozeman, also questionable as well, and that's an injury I would want to watch because that creates cluster on the O-line and potentially gives the Giants a chance. But ultimately, I think these types of games, especially rookie quarterbacks, first start, where you really are just guessing, the market is just guessing, we're taking educated guesses here, and it's settled where it is. I like to play some variation of alternate lines in this game. So I think if you do like the Chargers, I don't necessarily know that I would lay the 6. I probably would sell points and just lay an astronomical number. And similarly for the Giants, I mean, that 6.5 minus 115 is good at FanDuel, but money line plays, selling points where you get the Giants minus 2.5, stuff like that, I would have way more interest in that than anything else. But ultimately, not a game that I have much going on in. Didn't play much in terms of props. So I'm just kind of like watching this one on the sidelines. And because I don't have any exposure to the Chargers and Survivor, I'll probably be cheering for the Giants to pull some sort of upset in this game. Moving along, next game is one that I do have an opinion on. It's the Panthers and the Patriots. Seems like a little bit of back and forth in market on this game. The early 4.5s got bet out. 6 seemed to be the buy point on Carolina, and now we've settled in this range of 5.5. Total at FanDuel is 43.5. Juice towards the under. That's also one of the better prices in market towards the under. The Panthers 30-0 win last week against Atlanta. I don't know how much stock you should put into that. I mean, I'll call it fool's gold. 224 yards of offense, 4.1 yards per play. It was a turnover-driven blowout. I just don't think that they have a healthy offense, plain and simple. And when you look at the state of their offensive line with center and right guard on IR, I do think New England has done a good job with that defensive front this year, getting pressure, especially on the interior. Some good down linemen for them. I don't see a lot of scenarios where the Panthers are going to effectively move the ball in this game. I mean, they're really lacking secondary weapons. Like, Xavier Legette is not good, but he's out. Jatavian Sanders is not good, but he's out. And there's just not a lot of depth with this team. It's a thin roster that can't absorb these losses. Now you get Christian Gonzalez back for New England. He ends up basically on Ted McMillan for a large portion of this game. I'm struggling to see Carolina's path to having a big offensive output. On the other side of things, I think New England's offense has kind of been underrated this year. They have the highest explosive pass rate in the NFL, 15.7%. That fits this matchup where Carolina, in my opinion, has some really bad tacklers on the back end. I'd expect Drake May to attack the middle of the field, work play action. Carolina's pressure rate is not going to disrupt timing, right? I'm not a big fan of New England's offensive line. Their left guard, Jared Wilson, is out. But Carolina's front can't really punish these weak links. And Carolina's missing players on the back end as well. But they're a bottom-tier pressure rate team. They got 1 sack through 3 games. I think the line of scrimmage can be won by New England in this game. So not really buying the Panthers at all. Pretty strong lean on my numbers to New England in this game. And, listen, it's the NFL. It's weird to see the Patriots in these types of price ranges, but I think it's warranted in this instance. One thing I did play from a props perspective, just quickly want to check numbers here. So Ramondre Stevenson fumbled last week. Vrabel came out this week, said he's not going to lose playing time. You know, people make mistakes, so on and so forth. I personally am taking that at face value. I know the market isn't necessarily. There's been a lot of movement towards Henderson. I played Ramondre Stevenson over 2.5 receptions. I thought there was some very good value out there at plus money. The best I saw before coming to air was like plus 134. FanDuel was around plus 126, I want to say, which is still very solid. But I like Stevenson out of the backfield in particular in this game. It's been getting targeted a lot. Some of the ways that the Patriots generate explosives is through the screen game to the running backs. I like that one a decent amount for Carolina and New England. Moving along here in the NFC, we've got the Eagles and the Bucks. Just taking a look. So we do have confirmation that Chris Godwin and Tristan Wirfs will be in. For the most part, this is kind of held steady at Philly minus 3.5. Although it does look like at some of the sharp books, there's a little bit of buyback towards Tampa Bay this morning. I'm fairly neutral on this game. I guess if anything, I lean slightly towards the over, and particularly because Tampa Bay's defense is a pass funnel, right? Their rush success rate allowed is less than 30%. That is very good. Their dropback success rate allowed, 50.8%, not good. The one thing the Eagles have done well over the past few years is they are a very good running team, but they won't force it necessarily on defenses that are built to stop the run. And especially early on in some of these games, they come out and they pass quite a bit. Now, Todd Bowles is going to blitz. He's going to try to heat Jalen Hurts up. I've heard all the talk this week about how Jalen Hurts struggles against Todd Bowles. I think context is important. Last year when they played, no A.J. Brown, no Devontae Smith, no Lane Johnson. The year prior, no A.J. Brown in that matchup as well. So I think that's a little bit overstated. I'm not the biggest Hurts fan in the passing game, but there's been plenty of scenarios in the last few years where they come out passing on defenses that give up the pass, and they've moved it with a lot of success. The other side, Philly's run defense has been weirdly soft this year. You wouldn't really expect that. 52% rush success rate allowed. I just think Tampa Bay's offensive line injuries may cap their ability to exploit that. Obviously, getting Wirfs back is enormous for them, one of the best left tackles in the league, but they're still pretty thin on the offensive line, and I still like that Philly defensive front against that O-line. Then you add in, the health of Mike Evans not being in, Godwin being in, but probably limited in this game. Igbuka was out of the lineup last week, but you got a lot in flux for the Tampa Bay offense. The one area that they can maybe be able to attack is Eagles cornerback 2. But again, this would be much better for Tampa if they were healthy as a whole. They had the full complement of receivers, right? Adoree Jackson is dinged up, not going to play for the Eagles. I don't think that really matters. He's been a huge liability this year. But definitely Baker's going to test cornerback 2 for a lot of this game. Ultimately, I just think, the Eagles are kind of in a state where they're pretty healthy as a unit. Tampa Bay is not offensively, even defensively. Hall, Cansey missing from the defensive line. Those are big. So especially if the market's going to keep pushing towards Tampa here, I would have some interest in Philly, but I doubt that's going to happen like flat threes at this point. It seems like we're kind of just stuck in limbo here. In terms of props, again, this is just gut feeling on my part. When I'm playing these games out, I try to look at strategies that coaching staffs have employed in the past. I think the Eagles will be more pass heavy than people realize today. I played Jalen Hurts over in passing yards. He was like mid 190s, 194.5 at FanDuel at minus 112. So that's where we're at. So Brandon says juiced threes are out there. So I see some like -3, minus 122. You're better off with the -3.5 plus 100s at this point. So I'm not chasing the number and paying more for the half point than I need to. But yeah, Jalen Hurts over, and Ekshesh agrees with me. It happens. I don't know what's going on. It happens once every 3 years or so that I get agreement from Ekshesh, but we got it today on Jalen Hurts over in this game. Okay, before we get to the rest of the early games, this is one of the biggest weeks in sports, and FanDuel is turning it into a full-on celebration, introducing FanDuel's Boost Fest, where today you can get a 50% profit boost on the biggest matchups in football, baseball, golf, and more. That's right, no matter what you're watching, there's a new reason to open the FanDuel app and a fresh boost waiting for you when you do. Build a bet, stack your legs, or go bold on a single pick. However you want to play it, that profit boost is ready to go during Boost Fest. And even today, 50% profit boost token on the Ryder Cup, kicking off in about an hour or so. You got all sorts of profit boosts on NFL. You even got a profit boost token for Parlay or SGP in MLB today. Tons of ways to use it. It's FanDuel's way of saying enjoy the chaos, embrace the slate. Let's make this week even more fun to follow. So download the FanDuel app or head to fanduel.com/forwardprogress to jump into Boost Fest where the games are big and the boosts are even bigger. You must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, 18 plus and present in DC, 19 plus physically located in Ontario, or 18 plus in Kentucky or Wyoming. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Call Connects Ontario 1-866-531-2600 or visit connectsontario.ca. All right. Saw some commentary in the chat about Carson Wentz. I mean, Carson Wentz not really built to come from behind, I think, at this point in his career. It's not a great game state. He tends to hold the ball for too long, which is not ideal against the Steelers' defense. But what are you going to do? We'll see how things go here with the Steelers at the ball in the third quarter. O'Neal being done as well. Ryan Kelly, who returned from concussion, not ideal. Not ideal. Okay, Washington and Atlanta. This game has seen a ton of movement this week. And I think for obvious reasons, now I'll just question whether or not the number has gone too far. So more Atlanta money this morning. We're -2.5, approaching -3 in market, pretty much across the board. FanDuel has the best money line price that I see on the Commanders at +134. So anyone who watched Thursday, best bets here on Forward Progress. As my double hammer, I gave out Atlanta +102 money line. They are currently -158. I do think that this number may have pushed out a little bit too far now. If you wanted to consider some sort of buyback or whatever, hedge, you can go for it, in my opinion, at this point. But I think it's very clear here why this is happening. One, I think Atlanta's result last week was an outlier result. Horrible game. It happens. But secondly, the Washington offense as a whole, Jaden Daniels out, Mariota in. Mariota's fine. I've always liked Mariota. He can keep the floor. But I think for this game, with McLaurin, Noah Brown being out, the weaponry that they have on offense really caps their ceiling. Atlanta's pass D is top 5 by dropback success rate, 40%. Even with A.J. Terrell missing time, that's tough sledding for this Washington team. The Falcons' pass rush has gotten better. It's ticked up. Last year was abysmal. Washington's protection really has to hold in this game, or else it could get ugly. They might try to run the ball. Their run game diversity can help a little bit. Dual threat, obviously, in Mariota. But it's hard for me to see Commanders' explosives in this game. And without the weaponry on offense, I think you can see a lot of drives stall. Penix was awful last week. Didn't really test Carolina down the field. I think this offense needs to open it up a little bit more, take some more calculated deep shots. If you look at Washington's defense, they've allowed one of the highest ADOTs, average depth of target, in the entire league. So Darnell Mooney, Drake London, these are breakout candidates today. I see Shank in the chat says he loves Mooney anytime touchdown. Washington's D has also been pretty lucky. One thing that I do like to look at is how both offenses and defenses perform on early downs compared to late downs, and when there's a really drastic split. And Washington's defense is getting shredded on early downs, but they're getting off the field on late downs. That is likely to regress over time. So I think Washington comes in a little bit overrated, or at least did. But now at this point, it keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. Like, we flipped from Atlanta +3 -115 at open all the way out to almost going the complete opposite of that. And what we've historically seen in these types of situations is some of these really do move too far. Games where you're seeing massive point spread swings often move too far. So at this point, I'd say no more Atlanta. If you miss the boat on them, you miss the boat. Potentially play back the other side. Potentially. Props-wise. So I like Tyler Algier over on rushing yards in this game. Pretty much across the market, it's all good. I just think there was some 29.5s out there, 30.5s. So last week, 1 carry for 40 yards. Trailing game state the entire time for the Atlanta Falcons. Algier was priced at 41.5 rush yards last week. So we've seen a drop off of about 10 yards. Now, of course, you have to account for the fact that he was priced going up against Carolina. Bad run defense. But ultimately, over adjustment, in my opinion, I think they want to get both backs going as they regularly do when they are consistently winning. So Algier, his numbers to me are a little bit too low. All right. Cleveland and Detroit is our next stop here. So all the 9.5s seem to be gone now. Market is pretty close to flat 10s across the board. Any 10.5s that you see are basically a 10 the way that they're juiced as well. Total in the game is 44.5. A few injuries to watch out for in this game, both on the offensive line. On the Lions side, I would like to see if Taylor Decker ends up playing. It's the second straight week, 3 DNPs with a shoulder injury. That is pretty big for this matchup against the Browns D-line. And then on the other side, Jack Conklin at right tackle. They lost DeJuan Jones last week as well, who's not good, but he's a backup tackle for them. They're very thin there. So if Jack Conklin can't go, this could be a disaster. I don't want to spend too much time here. I think now that the 9.5s have gotten scooped up, I'm kind of fine with where we stand in market. I mean, the Lions passing game is humming. They've got the explosive passes back, 54.8% dropback success rate, which when you consider how bad they were in week 1, it just shows how astronomically good they've been in the past couple weeks. Cleveland's front will do some damage here. If they can stuff the run on early downs, or like that was the one thing for Detroit against Baltimore last week. Early downs, picking up chunk plays, tons of yardage, just made the whole game easier. Cleveland can do a little bit better on early downs. The play action explosives start to shrink for Detroit. All that matters. But ultimately, I just don't have enough faith in the Browns offense to keep this game close. Like, even if they get a 90th percentile game on defense, I mean, last week they got a 99th percentile game on defense. They were still down 10-0 midway through the fourth quarter. They ended up beating the Packers, but they were down 2 scores with their defense playing all that well. Now it's the defense traveling on the road. The offense, 31st dropback success rate. That is very tough if you're forced to chase the game. So not much to do here anymore, in my opinion. I gave out Lions 9.5 earlier this week. Probably would have... I will say Decker was on the injury report already, but I'd only seen one injury report at that time. Probably would have reconsidered if that wasn't the case. But ultimately, I think that this is fine as it stands right now. I played some Montgomery under 1.5 receptions. Last couple weeks, just not getting targeted in the passing game. Gibbs is getting used a little bit more. And especially in a game where they are considered to be front runners, I don't think he's getting that many looks in the passing game here. So Montgomery under 1.5 receptions. There's some plus 100s out there as it stands right now. Before we get into our next game, if you haven't haven't done it yet and you're enjoying the stream, please smash that like button down below. Goes a long way. Serves this content out on YouTube to other people who may be able to find the channel. So if you're enjoying it, smash the like button down below. Tennessee and Houston, our next game in the early window. So looking at the market right now, we're kind of in between a Texans 7 and a Texans 7.5 type of number. The total's been getting bet up, which originally I agreed with. I'll explain why I'm a little bit more skeptical on this now. But I don't really love this game from a betting perspective. I think there's very, very sound cases to be made for both teams. The case for Tennessee obviously being like, who is Houston to deserve this type of number? The case for Houston being, well, Tennessee never covers spreads. I mean, it's like 3-17 against the spread last 20 now. Historically bad head coach. Dan Moore, their left tackle, popped up on the injury report this morning. He's dealing with an illness, so we don't know if he's going to play. Kevin Zeitler back at guard helps, but if they are down Dan Moore at left tackle and J.C. Latham at right tackle, holy shit, that is a nightmare matchup against the Texans. Like, that is a disaster. And for some reason or another, Tennessee, behind an O-line that's been missing like multiple O-linemen all year long, giving up a ton of pressure, they run play action at the number 2 rate in the entire league. And they just have no hope of succeeding with that. So this could be a huge stylistic mismatch here where you have very bad O-line against Houston, who, according to my numbers, have the number 1 adjusted pressure rate in the entire league based off the schedule they've played so far. Plus, Derek Stingley is in for this game. It's really getting challenging to see the Titans being able to move the ball. Now, Houston's offense remains stuck. They've been bottom tier through 3 weeks. Tennessee just doesn't have a lot of players on defense. Tavondre Sweat's on IR. They traded away Jarvis Brownlee. It's basically Jeffrey Simmons in the front 7. You double him, and you got a chance. Can Houston's O-line do that? I don't know. They've been really, really bad in pass protection, run blocking, everything this year. So you got a defensive front 7 that I don't really like against an O-line that I don't really like. I don't know what's going to happen here, but wouldn't surprise me if this is the coming out party for Houston's offense. We could potentially look to fade that down the road, but that is certainly a possibility for this game. Nothing from props here. Just not much that I like in this game whatsoever. New Orleans, Buffalo is our next one on the board. I'm also not going to spend too much time here. We talked a little bit about this on last week's Sunday Reset on Sunday night. The line opened 16.5. Talked about how it would likely finish in this range where it's at right now, 14.5. I think sharp bettors who are very number-driven, model-driven, are naturally going to bet the Saints in this type of spot. It's a pretty big number for week 4. It's kind of where my numbers are. I just didn't pull the trigger. I don't really love these games where you have a big spread. There's just a lot of more challenging things to quantify late in game for this one. I will say Buffalo is dealing with some decent number of injuries here, with Matt Milano, Ed Oliver being out again. Their right tackle, Spencer Brown, was not practicing this week. Those are significant injuries that if it was anyone other than the Saints, I think a team would be able to exploit it a little bit more. But with the Saints, I don't really know. New Orleans they can't generate heat. I mean, they have like 30 pressures in 3 games. Allen's going to get clean looks in this game. The Saints can't tackle underneath. There's lots of matchup advantages that Buffalo has to move the ball in this particular game. So it just basically comes down to, can the Saints do something to keep it close? They get Tylese Fuaga back at right tackle. That helps the offensive line. But even with the Bills' defensive injuries, I'm not sure you're going to get that much consistency out of New Orleans moving the ball here. Just not a game that I'm interested in at all. Didn't come remotely close to playing anything here this week. And that's where it stands right now. Props-wise, nothing here either. I'll have some more in the late window. Now, before we move on to the late window in just a second here, quick reminder, after Sunday Night Football goes final tonight, Cowboys-Packers, I might be in tears as a Cowboys fan. Check out myself and Clive Bixby. We break down all the games that were just played. We give you all the early reads and thoughts for Week 5 as well. That's right after Sunday Night Football, right here on Forward Progress. Make sure you tune in. It's late at night, I get it. If you want to listen back tomorrow morning, you can do that, no problem. We're on YouTube. You can get it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. That's totally fine as well. But just know that most of the value is going to come in listening live, because a lot of these numbers are going to move on the fly. Just got the Carson Wentz experience in Dublin as well. I mean, it's tough. I mean, he's already a quarterback that's going to struggle when trailing, but with that O-line, going to be a disaster. Not sure that they're going to be able to game plan around that. I see a lot of people asking about Survivor and stuff. I mean, I guess I'll just give real quick thoughts. Hey, Rob, who'd you use in Survivor? Ronak says, what are your top 2 Survivor selections? So like I'm pretty spread out in Survivor. A lot of these pools, I don't just have one entry. In fact, there's not a single Survivor pool where I have just one entry. Most of my entries are on Denver for this week. I do have some Houston. I have some Detroit. I'm thinking kind of long game in this, but I wouldn't mind if the Chargers ended up losing today. As Kyle Wilkes says, please say Chargers, Rob. No chance. No shot. Using the market pricing in that game is really weird because we just have like no idea what Jackson Dart is. Okay, late window. Colts and Rams. Seemed like steady tick towards the Colts over the week, but never enough to take this off of 3.5. Total touched 50 and still is 50 in one shop, but the majority of the market, I guess, is at 49.5 right now. I guess if I do have a lean in this game, it is towards the under. Part of the reason why, really quickly, going to interrupt. Jack Conklin is inactive. That is going to create a huge problem for the Browns. Very, very big problem for the Browns because that tackle situation is rough. Okay, Colts Rams. The Colts offense is efficiency driven. What I mean by that is they have a very, very high drop back success rate, 58%, it's tops in the league, but their explosive pass rate is second lowest in the league, 5.1%. So it's kind of death by 1,000 cuts. The way they've been generating explosives is actually through the run game rather than the pass game. And when you're talking about a total, I don't necessarily want to have to rely on one team to generate explosives in the run game to push the number up. They lose Matt Gonsalves, the right guard on the offensive line. They lose Alec Pierce, who I actually think is a very, very underrated receiver. So they have injuries on offense. The big key here is whether or not the Rams can get pressure, because Daniel Jones's sack avoidance historically is very low. This year, very high. 3 straight clean games. They're using a lot of play action. They're using a lot of bootlegs. They're basically getting him out in space where he can make quick decisions. And my feeling is that over time, teams are eventually going to catch up to this as more and more tape becomes available on this offense. Whether that happens this week or not, I don't know, but I need one more week of seeing the Colts. And then I can maybe really, really start to buy in. Because remember, the priors on this team going into the year, behind Houston in the division, behind Jacksonville. And I'd venture a guess that they are probably the best team in the division at this point, but it is still just a guess. They lose Kenny Moore at corner. That's a huge miss, especially in a game against Puka Nacua. Moore would have covered him in the slot a lot. Moore had a pick 6 last week. He's been very good this year. Big blow. We have to watch out for the Rams on the O-line. We are not going to get the inactives till later in the day. They get Steve Avila back at guard, which is big for them. But Rob Havenstein, the right tackle, is going to be a key here as well. Fully healthy offensive line, I definitely lean towards the Rams. I've priced Havenstein in 50% of the time in the numbers that were showed earlier. But just don't really know what to do here overall. I just think the total's just a tad too high with the lack of explosives in the Indy passing game. One thing to watch, Devontae Adams playing today, but he's old, dealing with a hamstring injury. That's soft tissue. I don't know. I've seen this play out a million times before. Hopefully he can finish the game, but wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't. There's a lot of talk this week. Maybe I'm going to fall for it again. I played this guy in the touchdown market last week. Didn't see a ton of snaps. But with Alec Pierce gone, A.D. Mitchell takes a bigger chunk of the offense, offensive responsibility right now. 2.5 receptions in market. I played some over on A.D. Mitchell. I got roughly plus 100, but I think I see minus 102 right now at FanDuel. Okay, George says Taylor Decker is active. Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those where he's just going to be dealing with it all year and not practicing. But, yeah. Let's be honest. How many downs has Jack Conklin played as a Brown? He's been in and out of the lineup with several injuries over his time. But that to me is like a swing in the Detroit direction here. Because I had them both as 50-50. And instead we're getting Decker in and Conklin out. I would guess, I don't even know who's going to play right tackle for them today with DeJuan Jones on IR. KT Leviston is who I would guess. I actually don't even know who that is. Best guess. TA would know a lot better than I would, but that's going to be an issue. Okay. Before next game, Detroit or Green Bay for Survivor? I mean, Green Bay, it depends on if you have holiday slate. There's a million questions when it comes to Survivor. Also depends on what you're projecting people to do in your pool. I think generally Detroit probably is going to have a slightly higher EV in most pools, but it's going to be pretty close. All right, keep it going in the late window here. Jacksonville, San Fran. Taking a look at the current market, a lot of the 3.5s are gone. FanDuel still has one. Total in the game, 46.5. So this is one of those games where I've bet some Jacksonville this week. I've used them in some contests. Stale lines, it's pretty obvious to do that. I like this matchup for them, and I like the health of their team, which is pretty much fully healthy, versus the lack of health on the 49ers side. So one thing with Jacksonville, their protection has held up this year. 22.5% adjusted pressure rate. That's number 2 in the league. This is big with Nick Bosa out for San Fran. Like, that is a massive loss. Bosa is one of the best and most consistent defenders in the entire league. Now, there's some misleading stuff with the adjusted pressure rate because Jacksonville does a lot of things to get the ball out of Lawrence's hands quickly. They run a lot of screens, short passes, and stuff like that. I think if you were to just look on the surface, Trevor Lawrence looks pretty bad numbers-wise this year. But in fairness, drops have really inflated the lack of efficiency for him. Like, if you adjust Jacksonville's drop rate to even league average, the offense looks so much better on paper. And I just don't think the San Fran defense is going to be the same without Bosa in pass rush. Big fan of Saleh as a defensive coordinator, but they are ill-equipped to lose him on the defensive line. They're going to need some other players to really step up there. On the other side of things, San Fran gets Purdy back. I like Purdy a lot more than I do Mac Jones. First game back off injury, we tend to see quarterbacks struggle a little bit. More so off concussions, though, than necessarily other injuries. But the Jags have been elite versus the run this year. They are sub 30% success rate. It's number 1 in the league. San Fran's offense is predicated on getting that running game going, especially with the current state of the wide receiver room, right? Jennings back, Pearsall banged up. They are just a very, very beat up football team. So if Jacksonville can win these early downs, stop the run, I think they're very live to win this game. But the health delta, the difference between Jacksonville and San Fran this week is one of the biggest in the entire league. And I could not bet San Fran at any of these prices. Has to be Jacksonville or nothing at this point. Nothing on props for this one in particular. A lot of the players on San Fran weren't lined in a lot of spots this week because of the uncertainty. And it's really a tough game to handicap with the state of the offense as it stands. Although maybe later on in anytime touchdown scores, I may have a look on the San Fran side. Okay, game of the day is the Ravens and Chiefs. And one of these teams is going to be 1-3 after the game. Now, the injuries have not scared people away from backing Baltimore in market. FanDuel's Baltimore -2.5, -120. We're seeing some other sharp books push towards minus 125. Even the total's been bet up a little bit here. If you are looking to back KC, 130 FanDuel is best price in market. That's at a few spots, but if you like the Chiefs, plus 130 is there for you. Baltimore is both these teams are kind of weird teams to figure out. The Ravens, for some reason, are barely using any play action this year. They're the only team in the league sub 10%. Ronnie Stanley at left tackle is questionable here. I really feel like more play action would help Lamar in this particular matchup, but they just haven't done it yet. Oddly, on the Chiefs side of things, the run defense, which has historically been very good for them, has really lagged this year. 49% success rate allowed. So combination of Henry and Lamar, that can put some stress on KC. KC's been playing a lot of light boxes. If it stays light, Baltimore can move it. The issue is on the other side of things, where Baltimore's front seven has not been good, both in generating pressure and stopping the run. The run D is the worst in the league right now in terms of success rate. That's skewed a little bit because of the Detroit game. Can KC take advantage of that, though? That's where I have a real question about it. I'm not sure that they can. Pacheco, Hunt, these guys have no burst right now. They don't. But without Matabwike in the front seven, Van Noy banged up, Travis Jones banged up, Mahomes is going to see cleaner pockets. They should have an easier time running the ball. They get Xavier Worthy back, which gives them a boost in their wide receiver room. That improves all their spacing on offense as well. You get more intermediate shots to Kelsey. It's really a tough game for me to handicap. Numbers-wise, I lean Kansas City. Honestly, I am just hoping the Chiefs win this game because I would love to buy Baltimore futures. I think the Ravens roster, when they are at full health, is the best in the league. If we could get them down to 1-3 and people really starting to question what's going on with the Ravens, I would love to buy at that point. Love to buy. In the prop market, I know a lot of people are not going to like this in the chat because he's been a guy that people have been betting on regularly. I actually played DeAndre Hopkins under 1.5 receptions. There's some minus 130 out there, minus 136, FanDuel. He's just not getting enough snaps. I mean, Zay Flowers is every down, basically. Bateman, Wallace, these guys are like roughly 60% of the snaps. Hopkins is, played 10 and 14 snaps in the past 2 weeks. Devontae Walker is eating into his snap count. So he basically has had 3 games where he's gotten 2 targets in limited snaps. He's got to catch both the balls, and the A dot on his passes is downfield. So he's basically contesting catches down the field every single time and not getting enough looks. Had to play under on that. That's a good point by KP. He gets no separation, 100%. 100%. So D-Hop unders for me right now. Okay. Final game in the late window. Chicago and Las Vegas. A lot of people very confused as to why there's Las Vegas money this week. There has been. FanDuel's up to 2.5 right now. Most books at least 1.5, some 2. And a little bit of money bet towards the under this week as well. So I bet some Raiders, not a lot. I think this is just one of those scenarios where you catch the Bears off of a 100th percentile offensive performance against the Cowboys, where the offense just looked insane. Now, they're running a ton of play action. That's a Ben Johnson staple. They're going to manufacture some layups in this game. But there's going to be a better pass rush from the Raiders front than the Cowboys front. So I'm not expecting the same type of returns that the Bears got offensively last week. My biggest concern in backing the Raiders this week, though, would be Pete Carroll against Ben Johnson, as I think one's very old school and outdated. Ben Johnson, very new school. But On the other side, the Raiders O-line has been brutal this year. 35.6 adjusted pressure percentage, third worst in the league. But Chicago's rush is amongst the least threatening in the entire league. So Geno's going to get a reprieve this week from being under pressure. The Bears also can't stop the run. 46% success rate allowed. The Raiders want to run the ball. They haven't been able to with Ashton Ginty, but this sets up for a game where they might be able to do it. You still have injuries on the back end. Kyler Gordon. They do get Jalen Jones back. That's going to help them on the perimeter. But ultimately, middle of the field, a spot where the Bears get cooked. Brock Bowers for the Raiders. I mean, the Bears defense bleeds explosives to tight ends. That's a real problem for them. So all in all, I just really like the matchup for the Raiders here. And I think at this point, it's hard to say that the Bears are overrated in market because the market has steamed against them. So you can't even really say that. But I think a lot of people are seeing the same thing, all in all. From a props perspective, Cole Kmet, my guy, used to bet him a lot in the past, especially anytime touchdown. I'm not doing that. I am taking Cole Kmet under 23.5 receiving yards. Now, people might say, well, Loveland is out for the Bears. Like, what are we doing here? Well, I mean, when Loveland was in, Cole Kmet played 90% of snaps, 90% of snaps, 93% of snaps. His usage is not going to go up. His usage has already been to the max, yet his numbers have gone up because he's now the quote-unquote starter. Cole Kmet under for me. Sunday Night Football. Dallas Cowboys fan here. See the logo behind. I'll try to break down the game as impartially as possible. For those that watch these for years, I'm definitely not a homer. I cannot get to the Green Bay number here. In market's been 6.5. It's never really been able to get out to a full 7. Total did get bet down, and that's got to be offensive line injuries for both teams because we've gone through 47, which is a key number. But it's really odd when you dig into this matchup that explosive plays, the Packers have been horrendous at generating explosives this year, which you would think would be their bread and butter. But 1.7% explosive passes. Now, you have to factor in the Cleveland defense last week, but this has been the MO in the past. And this is the defense where you do want to be able to generate explosives. Dallas gets Deron Bland back. That's big on the back end. Trayvon Diggs is going to be active. That tightens coverage outside overall. Packers O-line is dinged up. Aaron Banks, not a huge loss, but Zach Tom, pretty large loss. Can the Dallas D exploit that? I don't know. Typically, when I see stuff like this, it would be alarm bells in my head. Bad offensive line, not bad offensive line, injuries offensive line, team can't generate explosives. I'd like the other side. But the Cowboys defense has been so bad that it's really hard to lean into that. And I doubt Dallas is going to have success running the ball in this game. I imagine that's what they're going to try to do. But Green Bay's run defense, 31% rush success rate allowed. If they force Dallas to be pass heavy without CeeDee Lamb, without Tyler Booker, without Cooper Beebe on the offensive line, that's a lot of firepower missing. I just don't know how that ends up well. So I completely understand the move towards the under because of all the O-line injuries in this game, plus CeeDee Lamb being out. I think this is a pretty steep number on the road in the NFL. It's not like Dallas is a terrible team. And they're sort of being priced in this range now. But ultimately, I just could not get myself to bet Dallas this week. I just couldn't. Numbers aside from what we've seen so far, I think there's just a lot of path to success for Green Bay opening it up in this game. Nothing here on props either. Maybe an anytime touchdown again. We'll get to that in here shortly. Really quickly, I'll touch on the two Monday night football games. Start with Jets Miami. Market's been pushing towards 3 all week. -2.5, -125 now. If you do like the Jets on the money line, FanDuel 132 is the best number that I currently see. I personally just like the over in this game. Both defenses are really struggling to create heat. The Jets are 30th, Miami 27th in adjusted pressure. Clean pockets, lift totals. That's the way I see it. Justin Fields is cleared. That's big, much bigger for explosives for the Jets offense. But this secondary for Miami has been a huge liability. I mean, Jets will have open receivers in this game. They simply will. I'll say this too. The Jets defense, I don't know why people still give the Jets defense for like credit for potentially being like they're bad. The perception of the defense is not what the reality of the defense is. 28th in early down defense, 26th EPA per play allowed. I think both offenses have paths in this game. Very, very clear paths. I think this number is short on the total. In terms of side, I don't really know. But the Jets defense, Quincy Williams now goes on IR. They're missing multiple linebackers. Jermaine Johnson on the defensive line. Back end is banged up. Don't like it. Cincy, Denver, the final Monday Night Football game. And a reminder, I'll be on air for both of these tomorrow night. We're doing a live watch-along here on Forward Progress, both games. So we're starting 7 Eastern, right before Jets-Miami, and we're going all the way to the end of Cincy, Denver, if you want to tune in for that tomorrow night. I'll give better prop looks for those games. It's another one where it's like, okay, you got your priors for your teams going into the year. You adjust Cincy a bunch because of the downgrade at quarterback. You have 3 weeks of data where you're slowly starting to feed that into the system. And ultimately, Denver in the market right now is a 7.5, 8-point favorite. And it seems a titch too high to me, but there are tons of scenarios where Denver can win this game by margin because they have one of the biggest advantages of any game this week with their O-line against the Bengals D-line. Broncos O-line has been elite. Best adjusted pressure rate allowed in the entire league. Cincy's pressure creation is bottom 10. This is going to be clean pockets, big pockets for Bo Nix. The problem is, all year, he's had clean pockets. The dropback success rate is just so low, and that's a sign of bad quarterback play. And is that going to get fixed all of a sudden? I don't know. Receivers running open all over the field against the Chargers last week. Nix can't make a throw downfield. That's big. The other trench advantage is also big for Denver. Their pass rush did a really good job against Justin Herbert. Now they face an even worse O-line. You got Patrick Surtain on Jamar Chase. That's going to lower Cincy's chance to hit explosives. Higgins going to have a big game. It's a really tough one to handicap. I think the number's a tad too big, but when you talk it through in your head, there's tons of scenarios where the Broncos just blow the doors off the Bengals. Typically speaking, team like the Bengals, I mean, they lost to this Vikings team last week, 48-10. Vikings team that is getting shelled by Pittsburgh now. Doesn't bode well. Does not bode well at all. Okay. That's it for the games today. Just really, really, really quick run through as I go through the board here. New Orleans, Buffalo, no thoughts. Tennessee, Houston. You really got to keep an eye on Dan Moore. I have not seen an update on Dan Moore yet. That's the left tackle for Houston. Tennessee, excuse me. If he's out, that's disastrous for that team. Cleveland, Detroit, comfortable with the Detroit 9.5s from earlier in the week. 10, I would say you can kind of pass at this point. We're seeing Washington 3s in market right now against Atlanta. Those have started to pop up. For those who tuned in last Sunday night and bet Atlanta +3 -115 with us, I don't hate the idea of going Washington 3 -113 right now in market and looking for a really close game. Think you could you could also just hold the Atlanta position. That's fine as well. Philly, Tampa Bay, pretty strong lean to Philly there, but doesn't look like I'm going to get the price I need to bet them, which is kind of -3.5 +100 or so. I'm on New England against Carolina. Also a little bit of the under in that game. I guess you could just play Panthers team total under if you cared about that. Chargers, Giants, no opinion. I think alt lines are good there. I like Jacksonville against San Fran. Indy and the Rams played a little bit of under 50. Nothing crazy, but I'm more in the 48.5 range there. Chicago, Las Vegas, I a little bit on the Raiders in that game. Baltimore, KC, I ended up passing. Numbers lean towards KC. Green Bay, Dallas, numbers lean Dallas. I also passed there as well. So that's it for today's games. Anytime touchdowns. Bear with me here. I don't want to give out numbers that are not available anymore. So I'm just going to double check because these are very price sensitive. So quick reminder that these aren't going to win every week. These are, I don't want to say they're darts because they're not darts. I'm pricing the game. I'm making a number on them, on each of these players. I'll give you my fair value on each as well, but proceed with caution. Don't want people going ham on all these. Need better than 20. We're not getting a 24-1. I'll tell you that right now. And I'm not. Anyways, let's start with Sunday night. I feel like I know my team pretty well. I watch all the Cowboys games. I know their tendencies. I like Luke Schoonmaker to score a touchdown for the Cowboys tonight. The best I see is 16-1. That might be hard to access. 15-1 at FanDuel. My fair is closer to 11 in this game. Luke Schoonmaker, with CeeDee Lamb out, I think you'll see more multiple tight end sets for Dallas. They'll get a little bit heavier, try to bully Green Bay up front, especially in the red zone. Luke Schoonmaker, that's an ugly one. I'm going to go back to the well, I think, on someone else here really quickly. Sure am. Okay, second, New Orleans, Buffalo. I am going to take Elijah Moore at plus 850 FanDuel right now. Pretty solid price. I have this closer to 5-1. Fairly decent size edge for me. Part of what I think we will see happen in this game, especially if Buffalo gets out to an early lead, like the spread would suggest, is more rotation from the wide receivers. They've been doing a decent job of rotating wide receivers in and out as well. But Elijah Moore, I'm going back to the well, had some shot plays last week, stuff specifically designed for him. I do have a feeling he's breaking through at some point in the next week or so. So Schoonmaker, Elijah Moore. Let's see one more here. Just trying to find decent prices. Yeah, okay. Again, this is a opposite of a bet that I made, so it would hurt me if this happens. But Brian Robinson Jr. for the 49ers, 5-1 at FanDuel right now, that's far too high. Being mixed in a little bit more in the offense, I know McCaffrey's still the bell cow there, but overall we're seeing Robinson get touches on the opponent's side of the field. 5-1 is too big of a price. It really is. So we're going to keep it at that. We're going to go those three. Schoonmaker, Moore, Brian Robinson Jr. If you were looking for one more real long shot, Tyler Lockett would be my guy. But that's a little bit more borderline for the Titans. They might not even score a touchdown today. But at 14-1, it's a little bit more borderline. I'm not going to take credit for that if that wins. Don't tag me on Twitter and give me credit for that if that wins. All right. I think that's going to do it for me. That's a wrap. Week 4 Pizza Buffet. Big thank you to everyone who hung out and jumped into the chat today. If you got value, please don't forget to like. If you're not subbed here on Forward Progress, just click that subscribe button. You can turn on notifications, get notified every single time we go live, and please share it out to everyone as well. Shout out to our presenting sponsor at FanDuel, where I placed a ton of bets this week. Special thanks to our producer, Barbara Alberts, for keeping everything running smoothly behind the scenes. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. If you're American, I don't know if you can with the Ryder Cup going on, the way that's going down, but who knows? Maybe some history in the making with an epic comeback or something like that. I'll see you right back here on Forward Progress tonight for the Sunday reset immediately following Sunday Night Football. Appreciate everyone in the comments. Good luck with your bets today, everyone. Peace out.